Yo, part two. I guess this is like the midway video, just because there's a couple things I want to show you guys before I really start finishing up stuff. Also, hopefully this is the last time I have the front end jacked up off the ground, but given my other videos, I'm sure we won't be surprised if you see like this again. Let me start with under the vehicle. So this was the factory transmission mount. Obviously I was trying to make it work because the engine had to go back an inch for the oil pan to clear. So I obviously tried to make this work, and that didn't happen, but that's okay because not a fan of this one anyway. It's just how big and bulky it is. So we went ahead and bought this one, which I love Chevys because they're plentiful and cheap in parts. So there is a tubular. This is specific for putting a 700 R4 or 4L60E in these first gen Camaros, and it bolts. It has this plate that bolts to the factory holes, and then this is, look how much adjustment is in that. So I mean, you could go back, what's that, probably another inch and a half, 2 inches. Yeah, because this is all the way at the front. So you can go so this is all the way back. So back of the car, we're all the way back. This is front of the engine. So that made it a million times easier. It also brought the transmission down some, and the headers fit perfectly, as to where before with the old transmission mount, the headers were, this header specifically was literally on the floor pan, actually right here, and I would have had to have taken the old Tanya Harding to the floor pan right there and really messed it up just to be able to get a piece of pipe, not the piece of pipe, but a clamp or anything around it. The stock exhaust, this was on the small block Chevy, obviously, that was in there in the car before it. It is just slightly too narrow. So if you line this side up, that side doesn't line up. It's about that far off. So I could, just like as a temporary thing, get some flex pipe. That way I could actually just hook that up just in the meantime. That way I could drive the car and really test it, because you obviously can't do that with open headers. Plus, with the O2 sensor right there and the exhaust coming out right there, that's not bad, but that's not gonna give you the best O2 reading. You want to hook up some pipe, and you want it to at least here or something. But yeah, that was huge plus that I wasn't expecting, but it definitely ended up being a good buy. And that was only $200 from CPP. If you go to Summit, just go to Summit Racing and type in transmission crossmember for 67, 68, 69 Camaro, and it's $170 plus the tax and the shipping, of course. But they were good on that. Drive shaft went back in. The car is jacked up, so obviously it looks like it's sunk all the way in, but it's not. It still has plenty of room, and this way and that way room for when it hits bumps and stuff. And you can go to the other side. So the transmission line really got it kind of tucked away. Usually you guys see me cut off, I don't know if I can get my hand in there, that piece right there in the middle. You guys usually see me cut that off, but I didn't need to on this one because I had enough side-to-side clearance for the hoses. And so I zip tied it. I'm trying to get my finger in there. So I zip tied it to that, and then I zip tied them together, and then I zip tied it to the dipstick tube. That way it sits over here away from the header, and then just running up like that. I'm not 100% sure where I'm mounting the transmission cooler because this car is getting AC, so it's going to have a condenser up front, and I'm not sure how much room is going to be after that condenser is in to the back of the grill. So we'll see. But I got that transmission cooler that, oh goodness, that has the fan on it, so technically I can mount it wherever. I can mount it on the floor. I can mount it absolutely anywhere because it has the fan hooked up to it. So let's get to the engine bay. So I'm kind of still deciding on where to put the computer. I would like it kind of tucked back in there, but with the shape of this, there's not a really flat part to mount it flat. I was kind of thinking kind of just like that, but then I have to guesstimate on where the holes line up back there and drill a hole. And obviously I don't want to just go drill. Maybe, let's see if we can get that out of the way. Yeah, no, it's too much of an angle to just put it one in that hole, but something like that, or maybe something like that. It's just maybe that would work, but then it's kind of, no, it probably wouldn't work because look how far it sticks out, and I have that alternator power steering pump bracket, so it'd have to be over here. Like if I could just get it like that, that'd be great, but there's no even surface to really mount it to. I wonder if I can get maybe like for one of the Chevy trucks, the actual computer box that the computer slides into and it sits up and down like that. But I'm not worried about that right now. I can just keep it set right there, and because I want to hear the engine run first anyways. Yeah, here's the old gal. I mean, she's pretty. She's pretty. I just got the battery. Usually this has been a main issue with my swaps, the past swaps with the truck, is those wires from the harness and the factory power wires running to the starter, where you can see this obviously has boatloads of room, but on the S10 that I did and the OBS that I did, it wasn't so great. And actually both of those, the S10, we dealt with melted wires every time I touched that truck. So the owner actually got smart, and he spliced the wires and made them super long to where he ran them all the way through the front and down and under and then back, which is obviously what we should have done from the beginning, but he's got more common sense than I do. Then the OBS actually had room, but I don't know what happened. The guy texted me and said that it actually had some burnt wires So I don't know what happened there, because there was room between the wires, and I kind of had them tucked back and zip tied just like that. I didn't have heat shield on them. It came with a factory metal tube that separates them. So I wonder if that metal tube just got super hot, and that ended up melting the wires. But you can see here I got the heat shield. So those should definitely not melt. If those melt, then I give up, because that just doesn't make any sense. I ran the battery wire, instead of it just hanging out here and hanging down, I tucked it in under there along with the negative cable. The negative cable, I actually brought it back around and through and then set it right there. But it starts up with the key. I mean, it cranks with the key, so I know we're good there. The linkage is going to be interesting, because this has a different style throttle cable linkage. So it's actually that bar connected to a pivot point down there. You can't see it, and that right there is what goes back and forth with the gas pedal. So I need to get under there and look at the top of the gas pedal and see if it has a little hole in it like every gas pedal does, to where I can just remove all of this and just run the aftermarket throttle cable like I do everything. This is something good to show. So these are the coil packs off of the Gen 4 over there. They obviously, for a truck, I actually had some of the little square ones over there in my parts bin, and those didn't fit either because of this fuel line. So what I had to do was I had to be nice and gentle and push the fuel line up and over to clear the coil pack. So we're good there. Obviously that you don't want to just go yanking on and pushing on, because you crack that, then you're buying an whole new fuel rail. And the factory fuel rails for these are not cheap. It's actually pretty insane how expensive these intakes have gotten. These intakes, they don't even flow as good as your stock Gen 3 truck intakes. These are like these and the LS4 intakes are the worst flowing factory intakes. This is the LS1, but obviously it looks a million times better. And then hood clearance is obviously another reason. It flows good enough. This motor's stock anyway, so we weren't going for horsepower. It's a 6.0, so it'll be good enough to move this down the road. I will be doing brakes and suspension, but I think that is it for video number 2. Let me get you the part number for this. This is it's like they want you to have it, but they don't want you to have it. No, sorry. Hold on. Stare at the box. Make sure it don't go nowhere. That's not what I wanted to do. Oh, it's open. All right, there we go. So I would definitely just go ahead and get that rather than trying to make that work. I had somebody said that they made a Turbo 400 mount work, but it's still, so what it is it's just like that one where it has a plate sticking out, but you have to cut the plate and then like remount it. And I'm like, for $200 shipped to your door, I wouldn't waste your time doing all that unless you live way out in the sticks and you just like cutting and hacking and welding. I'm not too much of one of those people. I like to be able to just bolt stuff in and move along. Time is money, which I don't make any, so I guess it doesn't matter. Time is time to me. I'm gonna do a video on the CUDA maybe after this Camaro. I don't have anything set in stone to do after the Camaro. But the Camaro's still gonna take a while because I still gotta do the AC once I get it running, and then I gotta do control arms, coilovers, steering. So there might be more than 3 videos on this. There might be 3 videos on the LS swap, and then other videos will be the other stuff I do to it. But the CUDA will get its time to shine on YouTube at some point. Also, I get a lot of questions about how much does this and that cost, parts, how much for you to do it, blah, blah, blah. One, just hit me up on Instagram at Krusty CUDA with a K, CUDA with the C. It's always in the description. Those are impossible questions to answer because you can go from mild to wild parts wise. I can do more, but obviously that's money wise, that's different than me just taking out what you brought or just putting in what you brought, if that makes sense. If I gotta take stuff out and then put stuff in, it's different. If I just gotta put stuff in, it's different. If you already have stuff in there, it's different. So just hit me up on Instagram. I'd say typically parts wise, you gotta understand it's not gonna be cheap when you're paying somebody to do it for you. So there's one dude that hits me up and he's trying to nickel and dime me on everything, and I'm just like, just do it yourself. I mean, the cheapest way to do it is yourself. That's why I make these videos, to help you guys out so you can see the easiest ways to do it. So I do it the hard way for you first. But yeah, I'll just hit me up on Instagram. Follow me on here, I guess. That's what all the cool kids say. And I'll see y'all on part 3. So we're right back. Day for me, split second for you. I wanted to show you guys, there was one thing I forgot about that I wanted to show you guys in the last video. Not a major thing, but something good to know, because I didn't find out until the last swap what I needed for it, which is just the oil filter. But I'm starting on the fuel pump today, or I'm putting it in today. I got the exhaust shade tree mechanic way done, but let me show you some things. Maybe in this same video I'll start it up for the first time. We'll see how the fuel pump goes, because this is, like I just said previously, the halfway point. So I at least want the halfway point for you guys to hear it run before I really finish everything, and then you see it run with all the accessories and just being done on the swap. But let me show you guys what I had to do for the exhaust. So yeah, there's that. It's just a 3-inch band clamp. So 3-inch here, 3-inch here, but 2.5-inch exhaust. So I took metal tape and I wrapped it around the exhaust to thicken it up, and then stuck it in there, tightened it all the way down, and then threw tape on the outside to hold it in because it was still loose and wouldn't stay in. But I mean, it don't budge. It's in there. This is just for me to be able to actually drive it and test everything, make sure stuff doesn't leak, because you can sit here and let it idle and be like, oh yeah, it runs great, everything's good, but you really need to drive it, and that's when you figure out what wires are gonna melt, what's leaking, if it's even shifting right, blah blah blah. But yeah, that's in. Obviously I still gotta do the shifter, but that's not important right now, simply because it's not even running yet. So, but let me damn it, that's what I wanted to show y'all while I was under there. So every aftermarket oil pan I've used, these the screw-on fitting for the why am I going blank? The oil filter. They're always different from the regular oil pan fittings. So that fitting actually takes a little bit bigger screw-on oil filter than your typical Gen 3. It's for you basically get a oil filter for a Gen 4, so 07, late 07 and up. I just picked 2008 because 07 is a halfway year where they had Gen 3 still. So I just get an oil filter for an 08, and that's what screws onto that. A typical Gen 3 oil filter is never correct for those screw-on fittings that come with these aftermarket oil pans. And what's weird about that is that's an F-body oil pan, so I don't know why it's like that. But let me show you guys the fuel pump. So this is the retrofit fuel pump. Goes in tank just like your typical sending unit. I mean, it's a sending unit and pump all in one. You gotta make sure, well, it comes with directions, but this is the third one I've done, so I don't need them. Here's the connector. This is the end that connects to the relay, which I'll show you guys. But it's super made up word. Super simple. Let me get it out. Well, I can show you right here. So you have, if we focus, so from right to left, you got black with white, gray, purple, and black. So the black and white goes to body ground. The gray is power for the fuel pump. Purple is your fuel gauge, and black is ground. You connect all the way at the battery on the negative side, and that's it. So this gray wire will go all the way. I hook it up to the fuel pump relay on the actual harness, so that when you turn the computer on, the ECU on, the fuel pump comes on, which it is this one. The one with just the black and green wire, that's your fuel pump relay. So how it goes is you need power. You probably correct me if I'm wrong. It's in the instructions. It's in the instructions for the harness, not the fuel pump. 30, I believe, is to the fuel pump. So you take the gray wire from the harness, from the fuel pump harness, and you connect it to 30. It's either 30 or 87. Those are the two you use, is the two open spots in there. So one of these will be power from the fuel pump, or the wire from the fuel pump, which would be that gray one. And then the other one is going to be direct power from anything that the key turns on, or power directly from any 12-volt source. And then when you flip the key and the computer turns on, your relay clicks and your fuel pump turns on. This is the same exact fuel pump I have in the CUDA. The fuel pump I did in the C10, the 85 C10, and now the Camaro. But let me see. So it gives you instructions. I mean, you can also put it on its own separate relay, which is basically what it tells you. But yeah, seeing that gray is red, or power. You got your chassis ground and your negative. And you have to use 12 gauge wire. Oh, dang it. I can come back and get that. But you have to use 12 gauge wire from the pump to the relay, or even if it's way back here, you have to use 12 gauge wire no matter what, at least 12 gauge wire. So that's what we got from good old Riley's. I believe that is it though. So So I'm gonna put this fuel pump in, put oil in the engine, and then crank it and see what happens. And I'll make that a video, and then you'll see this on YouTube. So split second for y'all, probably about 3 more hours for me. See y'all in a second. All right, so we are back again. Split second for you, next day for me. This video's kind of chopped up oddly. The very beginning, the first part, I thought that was gonna be the whole video, and then I stopped recording, and I was like, why make it the middle video without you hearing it run first? Because I always get these to the point where I can just test fire them. So I need to throw that in the video so that you don't have to wait till part 3 to hear it run and see it done. Also, so I can give more tips. But I'm gonna show you guys the fuel pump installed, the routing of the damn dogs, the fuel line and the wiring, how connected, blah blah blah. So I finished this whole video and uploaded it last night, and I watched it, and the whole last part was just a mess. So I'm basically redoing just that last part. So last night I recorded it and heard it run for the first time, and it was gonna be the first time you and I both heard it run, but now it's just the first time you heard it run. Purrs like a kitten though. That's after doing 2 swaps with cams. If you cam it and you don't have a available tuner like right then and there that can come tune it, it's a debacle. If you haven't noticed with the OBS and the C10, those being the swaps or the cam swaps that I've done, the stock setups, the CUDA, the S10, and this, flawless right off the bat, no issues, obviously, because the computer is set up for just the basic running things. So let me start with the fuel pump and work our way forward. So also, it was nighttime last night, and I wasn't a fan of how the video came out with the flash on. You could see stuff, but it's kind of hard still. Sorry, I'm cleaning up zip tie deals. All right. Stop saying so much. Like I'm a 16-year-old girl. Yeah, it's held up by just the jack for now. I'm not staying under here long. So you got your fuel filter right into the fuel line. That's obviously where the stock line goes up and hits the stock line. Ouch. The stock line would go up into the frame rail and then go that way down the frame rail to the passenger side to the fuel pump. Obviously, on LS's, the fuel rail is on the driver's side. So that's how we got it routed. That's how I got the wiring. That's the black and white. That's the obvious body ground. Cleaned up the frame rail where it was painted, so it was bare metal. And then I got the wiring routed, along with the fuel line routed all together. Since these are obvious unibody cars, I route the wiring and the fuel line with the brake line that comes all the way back here. And I try to keep it tucked up and as tight as possible so that it doesn't droop below and you can see it. And then it just goes all the way up. And I go to the outside of the frame rail. And I come back in. And I go over the frame rail up to the firewall. Obviously keeping it away from the exhaust, which I had first routed the fuel line this way and over, but I was like, why do that when this is a better option? Obviously I don't have it running completely with the brake line because I just don't want it to take the chance of kinking in these areas. Fuel pump works great. Oh, also the exhaust. That was another reason why I wanted to redo this. I'm gonna be fixing that. I completely forgot that when I was swapping a 69 Nova Back in 2020, I had bought a universal LS swap exhaust kit, X-pipe kit, and these pipes right here, they're just slightly too narrow, like I explained. Well, the LS swap kit, they're set up for LS headers, so they're not as narrow. So I just pull these pipes off, put the ones from the LS swap kit back into place, because it's 2.5 inch pipe too, and they should line right up. And then I have a different set of reducer clamps coming from Amazon that'll be here tomorrow, and that'll take care of that perfectly done exhaust. I'm kind of proud about that. I've never done it like that, and it actually held up really well. Well, when I started it yesterday. But yeah, then I got the wiring. Obviously this isn't the complete setup. If you actually knew me, you would think it was. But not my car. It's gotta actually be nice. I'm still umming away. I got the power wire coming up right here to the relay. You don't use that middle one. I didn't explain it earlier, but it's just the farthest apart ones. That middle one, that'll give you constant power. The relay won't kick it on and off. That'll be constant power. So you don't want to use that one. It's 87 and 30, or 30 and 87, whichever they are. It tells you on the top side. Again, I'm just umming. Jeez, gotta stop umming. Our black, the negative wire coming from the fuel pump, I got it going this way. You can kind of see it right there. And then I got it routed with the factory loom going all the way over there. And then I ran it up behind the fender and then back under to the front, to the negative side. And I put oil in it, and I didn't. Did I put the oil? Oh, that's also what was in the last video, is what oil. What's up, Zoe? What you doing? Chilling? So I just used O'Reilly's 5W30, but then I'm like a bum digging in the trash. Oh, it's way down there. But then also, since it's rebuilt, I use this zinc additive. Just throw the whole bottle in there, shake it up, and then put it in. Everybody's different as far as what they put in their engines oil wise. I never use or never have. Hold on, this might be too loud. Loudest noise on earth right there. I've never had a rebuilt or brand new engine. I'm used to junk, and I'm just a 15W40 guy. Something I do with my high mileage LS stuff is Rotella, or they didn't have Rotella, so I got Castrol 15W40, and then I add half a bottle of the Lucas oil stabilizer. And that's the concoctions I put in my junkyard or just used LS motors. And then everybody's like, oh, what about bearing clearance, blah blah blah. Well, a used motor, high mileage, it's going to have bearing clearance for that oil to get into. Plus oil thins out when it gets hot, so 5W30 is going to get thinner as it gets hot than 15W40. Because you got buoyancy and viscosity and all that scientific stuff. But brand new, rebuilt, obviously bearing clearance is probably far less than the junk I run. So 5W30, I would run that. I would actually like drive the car. I wouldn't consider just idling and kind of putting around town, really breaking in the engine. I'd get that bad boy on the highway and just fucking zoom and break it in. Oh, sorry for cussing. I gotta keep remembering I'm being watched by the world, or like 4 followers. I appreciate you. My son watches these too, but he's used to that. Let's hear it run. I heard it last night. Obviously, I was excited for y'all to hear it at the same time, but I needed to redo this last part because that was a mess last night. I believe I told y'all earlier how I did the fuel line. I don't remember, but I just kind of bent it up and out of the way to clear those coil packs. I'm pretty sure that was in the second part. But this is obviously just for now type ordeal. Now I gotta do accessories and blah blah. I gotta finish the engine bay now. Everything else is done except for the exhaust and the shifter and the throttle cable. So not much left on as far as the swap itself. After this, the steering, I'm gonna do steering, suspension, brakes. Oh, I gotta do AC, which that's gonna be fun because I've never done one before, but I'll actually read the instructions. I'll have no choice. Oh, wait till you see the oil pressure in this bad boy. Perfect. Even with 5W30, that's how you know it was built well. Oh, hold on. Once I'm gonna set you down, you get to watch me actually do stuff like I'm a legit YouTuber now, Mom. You're watching me work. I'm not just behind the camera. Appreciate my 400 followers. Going all the way to the top. Junkyard swaps. Well, not really junkyard. This one's definitely not junkyard. This one, I definitely want to make sure it looks like when he goes to a car show that he paid a legit shop to do it, and then he's like, no, I just got this random ass dude off Facebook. And they're like, what? You mean you didn't have to spend $60,000? All right, let's go. Don't embarrass me. We did great last night. This is, if you've been following along with my last videos, you know that, I'll make sure everything's away from the header. You know that after I get it started the first time, that's when the wheels fall off and it just becomes nothing but issues. Oh, no drive shaft, right? No drive shaft. I don't know what gear it's in. We're good. No drive shaft. All right. Now I'm gonna run it into the house. All right. Don't embarrass me in front of my friends. And go. Oh my goodness. Come on, mass airflow, kick in. Can't run it long because we got transmission lines plugged and no cooling system. That idle is a tad bit high, but I'm sure it's down there where the exhaust is next to the O2. It's probably got major leaks, so the O2 sensor probably can't read correctly. Also, I might need to just adjust the idle on the blade right here, right there. All right. That's it. Oh, it's puking. Oh, yeah, it's leaking a little. But that's it. She's a runner. She's a track star. I'm trying to think if there's anything I posted last night that I'm forgetting right now. Oh, I got to put the cooling system in. Duh, that was one of the things I was talking about. I only had like 3 things. I got to do the cooling system. But yeah, that's it for this messed up, not edited, chopped up video. This is part 2. If you got questions, hit me up on Instagram. My Instagram account name is in the description, but it's Krusty Kuda, Krusty with the K, Kuda with the C. Again, just like I said at the very beginning, if you're paying somebody to do the work for you, it's not gonna be cheap either way. It doesn't matter. I make these videos so you can try and do it yourself. If you're gonna contact me, like I've had one specific person contact me, and he's trying to basically get me to, come on now, dogs, something my legs. He's contacted me and he's like just trying to nickel and dime me on the prices and stuff. I understand money's tight for people, but if you want somebody to do an LS swap for you, the labor is, I mean, it's not horrible. It's not like I'm building an entire house or anything, but it's still extensive manual labor. And then you gotta realize that most of them have issues, and you're diagnosing issues that could be electrical, that could be internal, that could just be anything. So that's just more time. But yeah, hit me up on Instagram if you got any questions about swaps and stuff. If you got specific questions just about the Camaro, you can just comment, and I should be able to get to those. If you got any tips for me, you got any knowledge for me, always let me know. I'm always looking to learn more. Most of the time y'all are learning with me. These cars, I'm more familiar with these, so I more so know a decent amount. But I'm always down for some advice and knowledge from anybody else. So I'll see y'all in part 3, where the LS swap part will at least be finished. So I'll see y'all next time.